On virtually any other day in the Famicom's history, the release of Don Doko Don 2 would have been a high point. Unfortunately for it, it shared its release day with two of the best Famicom games. It's still a good game, but those other two are magic. The original Don Doko Don was a single-screen arcade game that received a Famicom port roughly 2 years and 300 episodes ago. It was part of a whole wave of single-screen arcade games that Taito was trying out in the late 80s, and your goal on every level was to wipe out the enemies by hitting them with a hammer. Don Doko Don 2 is a Famicom original, and it's changed up just about everything. The title is onomatopoeia for the sound of a pounding hammer. The plot of the game is that a prince has been turned into a frog, and so the carpenters Bob and Jim go to a witch for information on how to turn him back. Bob, and only Bob because there's no longer a two-player mode, has to collect 5 magic orbs from around the kingdom. Don Doko Don 2 is a side-scrolling action game, and the 5 lands that you wander through are broken up into smaller segments. On many of these segments, you have to figure out how to open the exit door and then get to it. Usually it's by finding a key, but sometimes there's something else. You hit A to jump and B to swing your weapon. You start out with the hammer, and it works just like the original game. Hit an enemy with it and they'll get squished, then you can pick them up and throw them at other enemies. Enemies can be thrown to the side as well as up. You can carry multiple enemies at once, but it doesn't really get you anything. There are also some enemies that you have to hit a lot before they'll go down. Thrown enemies, and enemies killed by thrown enemies, turn into gems. Blue gems are worth 100 points and do nothing else. But red gems, besides being worth more points, will heal you if you collect 10 of them. You'll find treasure chests on stages and you can whack them with your hammer to get what's inside. The notes will just give you hints, and this bag will make you invincible for a short time. You'll be able to just run straight through enemies to kill them. The hearts will heal you. Small hearts refill 1 point, while big hearts will refill 3. And then there are the weapon power-ups. There are 3 items that will change out your weapon for a while. The staff will shoot flames when you swing it. It's the only one of the weapons that's on a time limit, and will eventually go away after you use it. The winged hammer will slow your descent when you jump. It's handy, but I didn't really feel a need to use it. The other power-up's the kendama, the toy that has the ball on a string, and that gives your hammer a ranged attack. There's one more thing that you can collect on every stage, and that's these little pictures of an enemy. Collecting 20 of those will increase the length of your life bar by 1, and they're worth bonus points when you complete the land. If you die, you keep the extended life bar, but you only start with 3 health, and your gem and tile counters are reset back to 0. Bonus stages are hidden throughout the game, and to access them you just have to stand on the correct spot. The bonus game has you stopping the rotating panel, and you're trying to get 3 in a row. The stages in Don Doko Don 2 are fairly long and complex, with a wide variety of obstacles. It is always platforming though. On the underwater stage, for example, you're just walking on the bottom of the sea. On this stage, you're on a mountain face with a lot of caves that you can cross back and forth with. And in this horror-themed stage, you can hit the moon to turn it to daytime. There's also these giant worms that you can ride on the back of. That's the kind of thing that they put on just one stage, because they're cramming the game with so many ideas. At the end of every land, there's a boss, and the key to the bosses is that they'll throw out enemies that you have to grab and throw back at them. On this boss stage, where you're both parachuting down, you can keep holding down the A button to float upward indefinitely. You get 3 lives in Don Doko Don 2, and if you get a game over, then you have 3 continues, so continuing puts you back at the start of that land with a life bar that's only 3 dots long. I just have one problem with Don Doko Don 2, and that's how slow Bob moves. The whole game seems to be running just a bit too slow. But just because things are slowed down doesn't mean that it's easy. Okay, it isn't that difficult. It's just not a cakewalk to get through the whole game. This is another one of those games that people just aren't really aware of in Japan. The late Famicom releases just aren't really remembered. Though the few people I could find who did remember it seemed to like it. They also complained that the game was getting a bit expensive. Though it looks like copies can still be found for around 7,000 yen. I think Don Doko Don 2 is pretty good. It's just not quite a masterpiece. The stiff controls are a bit of a turn-off for me. But the level design is really neat. I like the way that you deal with enemies, the multiple paths for power-ups, and it provides a reasonable challenge. It might not be a top-tier game, but it's a pretty good one.